Hey guys, it's Nicole Eaton with the Rock Your Soul book and podcast, where we talk about how to hack your mindset, grow your intuition, and live your best life. You can support this podcast by subscribing, leaving a positive review, and screenshot and sharing on social media. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hello. Sorry about being late. I'm not surprised at all.
No, actually, so I'm like the type of person when I start something, I need to immediately finish it. So I was able to finish color coding my t-shirts because of the extra time I had. So
Oh my God.
appreciate you.
Look at the universe just conspiring in our favor.
I'm like so infinitely satisfied by the project that is now done.
Well, you're welcome to come color code my t-shirts whenever you feel like it. So
It
just
really brings me a lot of joy. In another life, I'm going to be a home organizer. But anyway.
goodness. Yeah, no, my being late story is a little different. I walked into my garage this morning where all my like workout equipment, my Peloton is. And it's been kind of like an in and out space for a while because of our pool stuff. So they stored a lot of stuff to like build the pool inside of our garage. So it's been like a cluster in my garage. But anyway, I go in there this morning and I walk and I just see something scurry and then stop. And it's the biggest, and I thought it was a cockroach. It was a beetle, but I thought for sure this is a cockroach and we're like having a come to Jesus moment. And when I say it's the size of my palm, I'm not joking. It was the biggest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, I scared it. It scared me. And I'm like just sitting there like, what do I do? So unpopular opinion, if you love animals or insects.
No, you burn your fucking house down.
Please close your ears because I found this like cardboard tube that was long enough for me to approach it and I just swung and luckily hit it and killed it. So anyway, I decide that I can no longer like be on the floor. So I decided to jump on the Peloton and I decided to do a 30-minute ride when I usually do like a 20-minute warm up and then strength training. And so I like commit to this 30-minute Peloton ride only because I don't want to put my feet back on the floor. So I'm texting my husband and I'm like, please come get this corpse. Like I need you to remove the corpse. And he was sleeping. So I'm trying to find ways to like wake him up while he's sleeping so he can come remove the corpse. So anyway, that is why I'm late. And that is a great reflection of my week. How's your week been going?
Well, you killed it. So it's fine. It's not, things are up. Things are moving in the right direction now.
I love it. I love it.
Now, my week yesterday, I felt like complete and utter balls. Like felt so sick, but I did the whole hippie shit before I go to bed. I reject this feeling. I do not want to feel this way. And I still don't feel like a glistening, glowing goddess, but I definitely don't feel like old crusty balls anymore. So that's good. So we're looking up over here too.
I think that'll be the title of this podcast, Old Crusty Balls, no more.
No more. Just no more. I don't have time for it.
I think it's really challenging when you are used to feeling pretty good most of the time. Like when you've really gotten into your groove, how when you get out of it or get into an area, I know I saw on your story you have an injured hamstring. I know that's freaking awful. Like, just when something's not quite right in your life or in your body where it's really hard to get back on track. But I love that, and that's absolutely something I practice is like doing all the hippie shit before bed. I swear by it. You wake up, you might not be 100%, but you'll at least be better than yesterday.
Right. And like the way I feel, what harm can it do? Right. Like what absolute harm can me saying, no, I really don't want to feel this way. I trust that my body's going to heal the way it needs to. I trust that I'm going to wake up feeling fine and feeling good. That does absolutely no harm. So even if it is, all bullshit, I don't care because 9 out of 10 times it works very, very well for me. And then on the times when it doesn't, i.e. my pulled hamstring, which is completely my own doing because, I can be a little aggressive in the gym and don't take time to do the recovery that I should. Like things like that, it still gives me an opportunity to like reframe and like, all right, this is going to be really good for me to take time. I know not everybody, has the same need to exercise that I have. But when I say I need to move my body 5 to 6 days a week to keep me sane, I really, really, truly mean it. And so not moving my body freaks me out on a lot of levels, but like it gives me an opportunity to do a lot of thought work around that and really lean into the other thing that keep me feeling good, like lean into my meditation practice, lean into taking long walks outside, which I've definitely been slacking on. And so it's like, okay, well, I get an opportunity to work on the things I haven't been working on. So still going to see this in a positive light and still, going to continue feeling good about it instead of like crying a woe is me story.
I think this is like the epitome of flow, is being able to look at something that you don't love and say, okay, well, what is here for me? Like, what is the goodness that can come from here? And I absolutely agree with you. I'm somebody who has to move my body, even if it's just stretching, even if it's just a walk. Like, I have to move my body daily or most days, because I'll tell you what, I went to New York last week and I was so busy, and the places I was staying didn't have gym, I didn't have like a lot of access to that, and it just, with my schedule, it wasn't going to work anyway. But I like got home and I was just like, oh, like, what's funny is like when I don't work out, I start feeling outside of myself rather than grounded within myself. Like, it's like I'm more reactive to the external. I'm more lost in the external rather than like strong in myself. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. I cannot tell you how much I love that you said that because, I work with people around nutrition, and yes, I own a gym. Yes, fitness is my life, but really and truly, I would say probably 95% of the interactions I have with clients, I hate that term, with, in sessions, it's not around fitness at all. But I love when we can come to a place to talk about fitness for exactly what you just said, because fitness brings us into our body and it makes things like making decisions that are in our highest good, whether that be, like you said, being reactive to like an emotionally charged situation, or like snapping at somebody, being upset with a coworker, or, on a much more practical and like daily level, is this the best meal I could be having right now? Do I really want this? Do I need this drink? Should I go for a walk instead of turning on the TV? Like, it makes making decisions like that so much easier because we're inside of our body versus viewing our body as like something that's out. I know it sounds weird, but something outside of ourselves. It's harder to take ownership for our decisions when we're not actively moving because we're just not as connected with our meat suit, for lack of a better term.
Well, and like, I don't know about you, but I go downhill real quick. Like, if I don't work out, it like, I don't know, it's almost like the start of a workout of a day sets me up for better decisions for the rest of the day of like, well, do I want to eat like that? Because I worked so hard this morning. Like, it's just almost like
it's a domino effect.
Yeah. And it's the intention of the day starting off right. And not only that, but it does clear my energy. And so like when I start stacking and compiling energy, not only do I feel heavy, not only do I feel like the weight of the world on my shoulders, but I just don't feel like myself because my energy naturally is pretty clear and I keep it pretty clear. So when I start stacking that on, I don't even feel like myself. I feel less in control of my life. So all these little things that we're talking about, and you can figure out maybe it's not working out for you, but maybe it is meditation. Maybe it is going for a walk. Maybe it is stretching in the morning or listening to good music in the morning. And whatever that is that sets up your day, to be connected to that internal energy within you, like your soul, that's vital for you to do in the mornings.
Yes. And it's something. And I think it is so important. Like, I truly believe everybody needs to have some practice of that level for that exact reason, because it puts us in the driver's seat of our lives, and I don't think we humans, especially us moms, busy working mothers, or not even working, but just people who are caregiving all day long, we don't take enough time to set ourselves up, fill our own cup, and then we both know where that leads eventually.
You know, it's funny because I was like going through, and obviously, like I've been traveling, I'm trying to get back into my routines in the morning. And we've talked about this a million times. I have a pretty lengthy morning routine. It's like at
Mhm.
least an hour plus workout, you know.
Mhm.
And I do this for a reason because it sets up my whole day. It makes me work faster. I'm way more productive if I clear out. But one of the things that I think people probably wouldn't expect that I do is I just do a brain dump in the morning. And I get rid of everything from yesterday. So whatever, like, I don't like to carry stuff into my next day. So if I was upset, like there was a situation yesterday that I was pretty upset about, something that really hurt my feelings. And I, like, you know, it was involved a couple people. So it kept getting brought to my attention. Like I couldn't even get away from it.
Mhm.
This morning I was like, I'm going to sit down, open my computer, and I just open a Word document and I literally just whatever is in my head. And I don't judge it, no matter how good, no matter how bad. And I just write for like 5 to 10 minutes. I just write whatever the heck comes to mind. And I don't feel bad about it. And I don't make myself feel like, oh, I shouldn't be having those thoughts, or, you know, oh, you're, you know, somebody who teaches positive thinking. Like, why, you know, like I just allow it to be whatever the fuck it's going to be. And a lot of times it will start to shift into more automatic writing where I'm receiving intuition once I get that out. But I don't, for me personally, I can't put anything in. I can't put in my workout. I can't put in my manifestations. Like I'll kick back some of my manifestations internally if I don't first. So I do take 5 to 10 minutes every morning. And sometimes I literally have nothing. I'm just going to wake up in a great mood. I don't have anything to write about. But like I said, this morning I spent a good 10 minutes just getting it all out to create room for what I actually want and not carrying the shit. Because if you think about thoughts, it's energy. And when we have energy and we have a lot of thoughts, we have a lot of feelings, they start to stack within us. And so we can get them out through exercise. But a lot of times, what happens, and this is one of the reasons therapy works, right, is that we have to be able to put it down somewhere or put it out somewhere and literally like remove it from our body. So,
Mhm.
writing is such a great way to do. Therapist or talking to somebody you trust or love is a great way to do this. But for me, I just write it down, and like I'm so more easily able to see any themes that are popping up. Like, oh, I've seen this, seen this before, Nicole, and you didn't like
Mhm.
how it went. Like, let's do something different. Like, it just gives me a chance to not only see what I'm thinking and look at it and just disassemble it and make sure it's true or real or necessary that I continue to think this way. It just gives me like that external way of processing that allows me to organize my feelings so that I can move forward in my day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's funny. I do kind of the exact opposite. I do that same thing. I call it a bullshit book. And I do it at nighttime. Like I take whatever has stressed me out that day, whatever is on my mind, worrying me, all the negative shit, whatever
Yeah.
I don't want, whatever bullshit is coming up. And I put it in the bullshit book, and on purpose, like, and I tell people, I advise, this is like something I love to give people too. Like and I know you're the same way. I love my journal. I want it to be like sexy. It's leather. It makes me happy. I write in it with beautiful pens that I spend way too much money on. Like that's the whole thing. My bullshit book is like a 99-cent Wegmans, like literally bullshit book. Like it's a totally different energy. I want to be able to rip those pages out. They don't mean anything. They're nothing. It's whatever. And I like to do that at night for the same reason. Like it just lets me go to bed, like not feeling the weight of whatever I'm carrying on me. So I can, set the intention, okay, I'm going to have a good night's sleep. And like you said, is this an everyday thing? No, it's not. And I'm very thankful that it's not an everyday thing. But when it needs to be, then yeah, absolutely it can be. But it's it's the little practices, right? Just like the morning routine. It is amazing to me how much, just like you said, getting those things outside of our body, like the physical act of typing them somewhere else, writing them somewhere else, or speaking their words into existence outside of our head, right? Because that's important. Saying them to somebody else, how it allows us to kind of step away from them and realize that almost all the time, these are things that either have nothing to do with us or that we have no control over. So why are we worrying about them, right? We have no control over them. Like it just allows us to put these things in perspective, or to just say like, I can't, this is bullshit. I can't worry about it. And so to kind of move away from whatever those things are.
Yes. And I just, if you've ever like gone to therapy or you've ever just like written stuff down, it does feel like, oh, now I can do something with it. It's almost like writing it or speaking it out loud gives you an action instead of it just swirling. So if you are somebody prone to ruminating, this might be a great opportunity for you to play around with what works. It might be talking it out loud. Some people ruminate more when they talk out loud, but it might be writing it down and just looking at it. But I think it's such a great way to check in with, where are my thoughts really at? Because I think when we do a lot of this work and a lot of manifestation, we like to pretend our thoughts are sometimes different place than they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's dangerous when we're not really honest. I think manifestation and honesty go hand in hand. Like, if you're not being honest about if you actually believe in your manifestations, that's important. If you're not being honest about the actions that you actually need to be taking if you want to believe in those manifestations, that's important. If you're not being honest about the situations that are in your life, like, deception and untruths have an energy, and they're not going to serve you in your journey of authenticity anyway. So when you can get really honest with yourself, and that's what I love about writing it out, and I write it on my computer and then I just delete the document. Like, nobody else has to see it. Nobody else has to look at it. It's not lying around the house so that, if I have some really, I'm real pissed off at someone, that they can find it. Like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? So giving yourself just permission to experience and feel whatever the fuck it is that you're honestly, truly feeling is so much power.
Yeah. And I think the deleting it, the ripping it up, the throwing it out, the whatever, for me, that's an important completion part of that process, because it's a good, solid, physical reminder that these things are temporary, that these things are not something that I have to carry if I am being conscious and choosing not to carry them, right? Because like you said, I think especially people who can ruminate, and it's easy, even if you're not somebody who constantly does ruminate, sometimes things just get under our skin and will bother us for whatever reason. Using those things around this practice is a good reminder of like, okay, what is my role in this? Why am I carrying this? Where can I put this? Do I need to carry this? It just allows us to keep things in perspective. And like you said, keep our energy clear. So we're not carrying around like this, like, what's the Charlie Brown character with the cloud? So we're not walking around with
what is his name?
Linus?
He has the blanket. I know what you're talking about. Somebody will correct us, I'm sure. Yeah. But yes, I think, God, this is really good, because I think that when you're I know we were both talking about, like, it's been a weird energy. We're moving through it. We're moving out of it. I had like 3 or 4 sessions yesterday that everybody was feeling weird. So it wasn't just you or me yesterday. Like, I think it was just a weird energy yesterday. So when it's like that, we don't have to make things good or bad. We don't have, like, that's the like crazy thing about our brain. It wants to make meaning out of something, and it wants to make meaning out of a bad day, that oh, I'm depressed, or, oh, I'm, this, and maybe you are, but also maybe it's just today. And maybe you can set yourself up by doing the hippie shit, by getting some of this energy out, by doing a walk, maybe tomorrow can be different. And I think, like, that's the beautiful flexibility in taking good care of yourself, is that we don't have to make meaning out of a situation. We don't have to make meaning out of a mood. We don't have to make meaning out of fucking anything, because it doesn't have to mean anything that's not helpful to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we can keep these practices and, rituals, really, for lack of a better term, like, really do them consistently when we are in places that are out of alignment, physically or mentally. Like, like, physically, I felt like crap yesterday, and I mentally felt like crap yesterday too. And I'm sure they played into each other, but it's so much easier to just get right back on track. You know what I mean? It's like, I see this at the gym all the time. Like, starting at the gym is hard. It's even harder starting at the gym the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time. Like, every time we start and stop over, it gets a little harder, not on a physical level, but on a mental level. And so it's a good reminder to just stay consistent, even in the smallest way. And if you miss a day, pick right back up, because that will allow us to never get far away from our practice, and allow us to keep ourselves, like, physically and energetically in a place that's most of the time where we want it to be.
That's so good. And, so we were just talking about like dumping, and I have to tell you like something that just like came into my awareness this morning. And like, I'm turning 35 in a couple weeks, which has been a weird thing for me. Like, I have such a weird relationship with my birthday. I love my birthday, but I'm very sentimental around my birthday, and I'm very reflective around my birthday. And I also, right before my birthday, have my 15-year wedding anniversary. So I have a lot coming up that is like sentimental and this and that. So I'm writing and I'm doing a lot of dumping. Like I said, I had just like a kind of rough situation yesterday that I'm still like working through. And at some point I got all of it out and I had space and I started to receive it. And I realized like, what kind of person do I want to be? And this is a question we pose a lot, but I started to think about marriage and vows, right? And I was thinking like, what vows do I want to make to myself this year turning 35? And I think these guide how we interact in our life. But I wrote a list of vows to myself this morning.
That's so good. That's such an amazing idea.
And so I want to share some with you in case they resonate for anybody else. But I feel like a vow is a really powerful word. And if the word vow doesn't mean anything to you, you might find like, I promise, or I'm willing, or I'm ready to. So whatever that word that is, empowered, but like, these were a couple of mine. I vow to live my life not by how it looks, but by how it feels. I vow to take care of my heart and leave it open. I vow to fight for my future. I vow to speak my truth always, openly, lovingly, and honestly. I vow to accept when there are people who aren't willing to respect that and then distance myself accordingly. I vow to live boldly and push past my littleness. I vow to trust myself and listen to my intuition. And I vow to take really good care of me.
Those are amazing.
I just thought it was like a fun way, like it's a variation of intention, I guess, but it was just something that I was like, no, like this was like, it was just a different energy this morning where I was like, I am absolutely committing to that internal energy within me that we're going to start doing this. Cause there's been some things I've realized over the like last month, and I actually really love retrograde in the sense that it helps me reflect on what I'm doing that's true and real, and what I'm doing that's maybe just because I feel like I need to rather than want to. And like for me, like it was throwing this event. I've been like wanting to throw an event since I got here, and I've been making a really good income and passive income here, and so I'm not quote unquote in the spotlight or have a big office here or have been putting on these events like I did in New York. But I really wanted to do one here, and I did it, and it was great. I had a great turnout. It was a great event. I didn't make much money off that. Not that that's the goal, obviously, but it was a lot of work. It was a lot of time. It was a lot of energy. And so I really just kind of sat with myself and I was like, I felt like I needed to do that to still be worthy here. And it really wasn't about what it needed to be about anyway. So it was like, okay, so if that was false and that I don't need to do that to be worthy, and I did that and I nailed it, and I still don't, I'm not feeling like that was, I don't want to say successful or what I want to do. Like, I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how to like frame that any other way, but like, it was just this like weird belief that I had that I needed to do that to still feel successful, maybe. I'm not really sure, but like it was some weird shit wrapped around that I realized was bullshit. I really enjoy my free time because I've created passive income. I've really enjoyed creating what I want to create and not feeling pressured to create because I have to promote something. And so I've just gotten down to like the truth of what works for me and what doesn't, and the reasons why I'm doing things instead of the reasons I think are why I'm doing things. Does that make any sense? I feel like I'm talking in circles.
No. It makes complete sense for two reasons. And so the first one that you said, really struck a chord with me. And I think probably anybody listening probably felt the same way. You said, I want to live my life not on how it looks, but how it feels. And especially right now in this Instagram, TikTok culture of like show, like, God, what a good reminder of like, okay, it's one thing how our life looks, but what does it feel like? And that applies, you know, I bring nutrition into everything, but like, okay, what are we doing? How does it actually feel to your body? Because nothing else matters. And so that was like huge. And like you said, like you're doing for good reason, because that's what you did in the past and it worked and you loved it and whatever, but it doesn't feel the same right now. And that's kind of a beautiful thing to realize, right? Like what lit us up in the past doesn't necessarily need to be what lights us up in the future or in the present. And that's okay. We can move away from things at any point in our lives. And also like back to, when we were talking about our dumping process, our bullshit books, like affirmations and how they have to feel real. I feel like this could be a really, really powerful practice for somebody who really wants to start affirming things, who wants to change their belief system around what they can do and who they are, but it doesn't feel real to them yet. Like they can't say, I am a healthy person with healthy habits. I am successful. They can't say those things and truly feel them, but they can say, I vow to honor my health. I vow to work on the things that will make me successful. And so it's not saying, this is who I am in this moment, but it's making a promise. I am going to do this for myself. I am going to fight for my future. I think that could be a really, really powerful bridge to get people from where they are currently to where they wish to be without keeping them in a disconnect and like that cognitive dissonance of, okay, well, I'm saying these affirmations, but they don't feel good. Okay, that's fine. So let's make them into a promise to yourself. And then you can follow that up with action. And eventually they're going to get to the place where you want them to be.
Yes. Like it just felt different internally to say that. Like there was something very different about it. Like I do affirmations, I manifest all day. I'm very good at getting it to internally connect, but there was just something so much more personal about like making promises. And we talk about confidence a lot. And we talk about making promises to yourself and keeping them. But instead of just being, I know we talked about drinking a glass of water in the morning and following through, and that's fantastic. But what kind of, maybe you don't start with a whole list like I did, but like I want these vows to guide 35 for me. Like I want these vows to be important because it's so easy to get lost in the chaos of doing or perfecting or pleasing. And it's so easy to get into habits and routines that at one time felt good, but no longer feel good, or into goals or, desires or manifestations that you once wanted that maybe don't make sense anymore for you, who you've become and changed into. And I'll tell you what, like just in like, again, I promised this year I would be really transparent. There have definitely been some things in my family that have made me want to close my heart or made me less compassionate in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be that. That is not who I am. That is not who I want to be. It's who I've in some ways become or have hardened a little to protect myself. But ultimately, there needs to be a shift there because that impacts other areas of my life, whether I want to admit that or not. And so I've just been working on how do I keep my heart open to be honoring and respecting and promising myself, because that's how I like to live my life. And that's how I like to show up in my world, is with an open, fucking wide open heart, so I can embrace and love and show people what that really feels like. And a lot of times I'm really good at that. But when I have family situations that come up, it shuts me down in a way that I'm still working through, no matter how long I've been working through it.
Yeah. I feel like I have something going on as well. Like, I think it's hard because there's so much history there. And so there's so much like love and emotion. And like, I know, it's easy to say the things like, you have to protect your peace and protect your boundaries, and that's well and good, but like I don't know your situation, but like in my family, like these are people I grew up with. These are people that like know who I was when I was 10, when I was 15, when I was like whatever. And so it's hard to, and I feel like that's almost what makes it hard on both ends, because we know who we were and we're not those people anymore, right? And so it's like, and also it's one thing to say like, I wish you well, you know, and mean it, because I do. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. But it's also hard to know that that feeling isn't reciprocated, right? Like,
correct. Yeah.
And that kind of, and I realize that has nothing to do with me. I can't force that. I can't change that. But it just sucks, because I'm like, I do really wish you well. I do really want to see you succeed. I do love you. And I would be there for you in a second. And to know that that's not reciprocated over like the silliest reasons, it's just like, okay, well that kind of sucks. That's a sticking point. I'm trying to learn how to, I watched your TikTok this morning about salt. I'm like trying to learn how to like close off things like that.
Yeah.
But leave myself like kind of open. And I don't know. It's, that was a tangent.
No. That was like, I think it is right. I think it is right, because like we are programmed by society to accept toxic behavior from people we are blood related to. Yeah. Of course, it's preached that if somebody else treated you this way or said these things about you, that you would obviously wash your hands of them. But for some reason, there is stress and guilt put on society, and especially within certain cultures, that this is something you need to tolerate or you're the bad guy, you know? So I think that there's mixed messages throughout society right now that are saying you don't deal with toxicity unless it's somebody who like gave birth to you, or you don't deal with toxicity unless it's somebody who had a big role in your life or is blood related. Like, it's so confusing, and it's hard to make sure that you're doing things and setting boundaries without guilt. I think that's been a big struggle, is like being able to say, okay, this is right for me, even if I know this is not going to go over well with the other person, for now. And I always say for now, because I don't think anything has to be forever unless you need it to or want to. But I know for me, it's like there's been people who I've let back in my life and let back in my life and let back in my life. And every single time their bitterness seeps into our relationship and acts as betrayal, every single time. And it's just getting to a point where it's like, it's involving my children. It's, you know, so it's just like, okay, well, I'm not willing. This is not the life I've cultivated for myself. I've cultivated a life that is very peaceful. My life is very peaceful because I've made those boundaries and set those boundaries. And every time this person is in my life, it's no longer peaceful.
Yeah.
I no longer feel steady and peaceful. I no longer am the person I choose to be when this person is part of my life. And that's a really great way to like look around, whether it's friendships or family, and say, who disrupts my peace? When do I feel peaceful? And when these people around me, do I leave feeling positive and filled up, or do I feel drained? Like, when I'm around these people, do they tax me out? Do they trigger me? Do they put me, and obviously you have to take care of your own triggers. I will never be like, somebody else is responsible for your triggers. That's on you, and that's on me to take care of mine. But there also has to be some level of protection for yourself, of like, if every single time this person comes into my existence, they attack me, they betray me, they say terrible things about me or to me, if every single time I feel like I am defending myself or taken advantage of, or whatever the case might be, then you really have to ask yourself, like, does there need a boundary to be set into place? And if you've set a verbal boundary and they've not respected it, or whatever, and they're, you know, whatever's still going, you have to ask yourself, is it time to maybe distance myself from this person for now?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard with people, and it's hard with family, I think.
Yeah. And like closing, even if it's not like a physical, you know, space, like if you're not physically together, and like that's not an issue there, but like for me, closing the energetic wall too. Like, I don't want their energy this was another thing we connected on the other day, like talking about like telling people your goals and how that's probably not the best practice almost all the time, unless, you know, whatever, that's probably a whole other podcast subject. But I also feel like if we leave our energy really open, this might be really, really hippie for some people, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like, I feel like if we are somebody that somebody else is thinking about either negatively or positively, that can affect us if we're not careful. Like, our energy can pick up if people are sending us bad vibes, for lack of a better term. That is something I believe. And so it's like, how do I clear, my space of, like, I don't want to be, if somebody's thinking about me negatively, intentionally or unintentionally, like, we got to keep that clear as well. So, like, setting that intention of, like, really making the bubble of, like, all right, I'm only allowing good thoughts and neutral energy into my space. Everything else can kindly fuck right off.
You know what's really interesting, actually, now that you're saying that, is when I first released my book, I felt really, really drained. And part of me was like, oh, it's just a big project coming to an end. And then I was like, dude, I need energy work. So I went to Christy, and she was like, people reading your book feel like you're there, and they're taking little pieces of your energy. And so we did a lot of work on my energy. And so now when I do a big project or put a big part of myself out there, or even with my TikToks, I put a little energetic bubble around myself, an intention for my energy to stay safe, and to not like split out like that. But I also love this exercise where you envision a sun above your head, like directly above your head. This is your own personal sun, your own personal energy. And it's the magnet, most powerful magnet in the world for your and only your energy. And so when I'm feeling really drained and I feel like it's because other people are borrowing my energy, and like, that's a real thing. And so if you're not hippie enough to hear that, you're probably on the wrong podcast, to be honest. Like, that's a real thing. People will suck your energy from you, and not in an intentional, malicious way most of the time, but like, if there's somebody who's obsessing about you, upset with you, thinking a lot about you in a positive way even, but just pulling that energy, it's really important. So envisioning that sun as the biggest magnet to just your energy, and then just taking a moment to just watch that sun pull everything back from the past, from the future, from the present moment, from people, from places, from things like your cell phone, from your computer, from your workplace, just watching it all absorb back into the sun. And then what I like to do is literally physically take my finger as though I were popping the sun and then poking the top of my head and just letting it drain back into me.
That's amazing for a lot of reasons. One of them being on, this is really funny. Okay, so really, if you're not into this hippie stuff, this definitely is not the conversation for you. But I have my vision board, right? I'm very protective of it. I have not let anybody see it because it's my vision board. I don't want other people's energy coming into my dreams. But anyway, I have this picture that's on there, and I don't know why I put it on there. I just have had it on there, and I knew there was a meaning to it, but it's literally a cartoon, like, rendering, an artistic rendering of a woman with a almost like invisible, like translucent line going straight up from her forehead to a literal sun above her forehead.
That's amazing.
Of it when I'm done.
You have
and
to.
I'm, like, looking at it, like, I've just been wondering, like, oh, I put it there because it drew me in when I made this, like, vision board. But like, that's really funny. That's a full circle moment. But yeah, and I think it's important to stress, this is true for, like, I like that you said TikToks, because I think this is true for anybody who has any sort of, like, social media presence, which, let's be real, that's everybody. We all have online platforms now, even if you're not actively doing things like you and I are doing in that space. Like, somebody can see a picture and be triggered by that, be jealous of that, feel envious of that, roll their eyes at that, something like that's energy that could potentially be sent your way, right? And so it's just a good, like, energy hygiene practice of kind of reminding yourself that, okay, like, sometimes you might, especially if you're energy sensitive, like, you might be picking up on something that is coming from very, very far away and not even sent to you intentionally, but like, just clearing that out, however like showering with the practice that you just depicted, which I am totally stealing that from you. Like, that's just really, really another thing to, like, add to the whole ritual routine of, like, this is what I do to keep myself feeling aligned.
Yeah. And like, people underestimate energy. And honestly, like, I am a therapist by trade, like by study. I have a master's in mental health. I was licensed mental health counselor for a long time. And so when I started to understand energy, I realized that when people are stuck in thought, like if they have a repetitive thinking issue, and this is not the case. Actually, I don't know if it'd be the case in OCD. I'm not sure. I can't speak for that at all.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is that when somebody is ruminating on something and they can't move off of it and none of the coping skills are hitting or feeling effective, they have to move the energy first.
Yes.
In every single case, every single time. Like if somebody can't focus because they're thinking about the same thing, we have to move the energy first. So if you're somebody who is stuck and you can't even do this exercise to pull your energy back, you have to clear your energy first. So Epsom salt bath, I was talking about how going to the beach is like the most healing because you are literally surrounded by salt water. But being intentional about clearing your energy, and then you can go try your coping skills because it will stick you in. It's almost like wearing a helmet of just like bad thoughts. I don't know how to like describe it. And then when you can clear that helmet out, you can have access to new things and new thoughts. Does that make sense for somebody who's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, it totally makes sense to me. And that's why, when we started this podcast, we were talking about movement, like finding practical ways for everybody to clear your energy is just, it's so important. And like, if you can't go to the beach right now, well, what can you do? You can take a shower. You can, sprinkle some salt around the entryway in front of your door. Like I commented on your TikTok, I have a saltwater pool. So, hi, find me baptizing myself whenever needed all summer long. Like, you know what I mean? But really, I feel like, and again, this is the hippie in me, but it's true. I truly believe that anything can become a ritual. Anything can become a clearing practice if you set the intention that that's what you're doing, right?
100%.
And so it doesn't need to be like, yes, I'm taking a shower, but I'm also like, I was texting you yesterday. I was like, I even washed my hair. Like when I wash my hair, that's me clearing my crown. Like, all right, I'm clearing my crown. Like I'm going to be good, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just important if whatever feels aligned to you, that can be your thing. It doesn't need to make sense to anybody else, but please, by all means, steal what I'm saying, steal what you're saying and try it on because maybe it'll connect with you too.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. I know we literally always tangent into 25 different topics. So if you started off like, oh, we're going to talk about morning routines and like here we are talking about energy showers. I really, really important, and all of this stuff has a place. And so whatever resonates, take what resonates, take what speaks to your soul, because I really believe that as we're listening to things we feel called to listen to, there will be a moment that's just for us. And I think that's the beauty of the universe, is that every message has a dominant point for everybody who's listening, and it's all going to be different. And I think that's like my favorite thing about giving messages is sometimes I'll talk forever and I think the message is something, and somebody will text me or message me and be like, oh, I'm so glad you said this. And I'm like, I didn't even know I said that, but that's fantastic that resonated. But the universe doesn't skip a beat with reaching you with the right message. And so it's really just being open to listening to whatever speaks to you. But yeah, I mean, energy is such an under talked about thing when it comes to healing and when it comes to just going through your life and going through your day in a better space. Like I wish more people, and I wish even more mental health counselors were talking about it, because I know like for everybody I've talked to, even people who don't openly do energy stuff, they will tell you about energy, and they will tell you about energy and mental health because it's so clear when you're sitting with somebody one-on-one and you're so locked into them and their person that I don't know where I'm going with that, but I wish more people were willing to be out of the box and talk about the stuff that we're all feeling anyway.
Yeah. And I think just, to add to that, like we said at the very beginning, we always get back to the subject eventually, right? But like, what is the harm in it? What is the harm in saying to yourself, I am going to consciously choose to shift my energy because I don't like how I feel right now? Nothing bad can come of that. Nothing bad can come of somebody saying, I don't feel good right now. My energy is off right now. However you want to name it, however you want to call it, my vibe, whatever. I don't like the way this feels. And so I am going to do fill in the blank here with the intention of shifting my energy up to a place that feels good, into raising my vibration, into, again, fill in whatever language resonates with you. If what you are doing is not working, try a different option. Something is always different, is always available to you. And so it's just like, trying on these different processes, you might find one that just really helps. And that there you go. Then you have something new to add to your repertoire to help you just stay more in alignment.
And again, these can be guided by your vows, guided by your promises to yourself. I think this is a really, I don't know. I think that's a really beautiful way to guide your day, to guide your year. Like I said, for me, it's my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's being, guided and led by the fact that I'm, turning another year older, and I'm really dedicated to myself and making this year the absolute fucking best it could absolutely ever be. And I hope that even if it's not your birthday, and even if you don't have a major milestone coming up, that you take today or tomorrow and make those commitments to yourself to keep your energy clear, to get clear about who you are, to get honest about who you are, to get honest about where you want to go, and some things that may have been holding you back. And you choose to make some vows to move forward, and to make some vows to fight for your future instead of your bullshit, which should be just a permanent tagline for this podcast. Yeah, I'm excited because I think that this summer has some really good energy and some really promising energy, and we're just clearing out the old stuff, but getting clear about who we are so we can move forward with intention rather than just going through the motions.
Yes, absolutely.
Where can people find you?
I'm on it pretty soon, friend. I'm going to say, follow me on TikTok.
I can't wait.
My website is just Heather Maio, MAIO.com. And my Instagram handle is Heather.Maio, same thing, MAIO. I'm really easy to find. So either one of those, hit me up. Let's chat.
Perfect. And you can find me at NicoleEaton.xo on TikTok and Instagram. I've been getting a lot of requests for people to be guests on the podcast. And believe it or not, I do accept other guests other than Heather. So make sure you email me at NicoleEaton.clarity@gmail.com if you have an interest in being on the show. Make sure to follow Heather. I hear Heather has a book being released soon. Do you want to plug that?
Yeah, let's chat about that. But yeah, I'm saying probably this. Well, I don't know when this is going to air, but from when we're recording, this time next week, we'll be chatting about it. So whenever.
Yes. I am so excited. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much for listening to the Rock Your Soul book and podcast. Take a moment to book a one-on-one session with me or purchase my trainings at NicoleEaton.com. Join the Rock Your Soul Facebook group or follow me on Instagram at NicoleEaton.xo. And if you loved this podcast, don't forget to share it. Thank you.